Alright guys, what is going on? Raze is here, and today I'm doing another episode of Reviews with Raze. What episode am I reviewing today? Well, today I'm going to be reviewing my least favorite episode from American Dad, and honestly my least favorite piece of animation ever. And as you saw from the title, I'm going to be reviewing the episode American Fung from American Dad, so let's get started. First, we're going to do an analysis of the plot and what happens during the episode, so I can go over each scene I need to and analyze it. So, let's get started with the actual review, shall we? This episode starts out with something that is actually not American Dad. Yeah, I actually don't know what this is. This is supposed to be, in general, I'm pretty sure it's supposed to be like a satire thing, even though it's not really funny at all, so I can't exactly say it's satirical in the slightest. All the jokes here in the beginning scene, they don't work at all. It's not funny, it's stupid, and if anything, it just shows the ego that Seth MacFarlane has. First, this actual episode, not the damn Chinese segment that we saw earlier. No, we're talking about the actual episode. The actual episode starts with Stan forgetting his anniversary. And what does he do about it? He gets his wife Francine locked up in an insane asylum. Yeah, I have a few problems with this. One, why does he forget? It's really supposed to be a contrivance to the plot as a whole. And two, why would you lock your own wife up in a mental institution? She did absolutely nothing wrong. This is just really forced and a really stupid way to start the plot. And trust me by saying this, literally, this is the least of this episode's issues. Let's move on to the rest of this episode, because, yeah, it's bad. After this, Dan goes to the mall, and let's just say that he acts like a spoiled teenage girl, which I'm pretty sure is supposed to be the satire in this scene, even though, as I said earlier, the satire here is not funny in the slightest. So, back to the plot. This scene is utterly pointless. Why does Stan go to the mall? Apparently to get his wife a gift for their anniversary. But here's the problem. He forgets it's their anniversary again, making this scene pointless. Literally, there's no point to this scene at all, and if anything, it just serves as filler. It's not funny at all, and it does nothing to contribute to the plot. Now we finally start with the B plot. Great, an actual plot starter. Well, don't get your hopes up. This plot really goes nowhere. It's about Roger trying to get rid of his clothes and meeting a person named Fung. I'm not going to talk about this plot really in this review because, well, there's not really anything to discuss here. It's not really good at all. It's just boring. It's not interesting. It's really bland. And comparing it to the actual episode as a whole, there's not really anything to say. It's really just filler. But the only good thing is that it takes up more of the episode than the other plot, so that means there's going to be less of the other plot in the episode. No matter how bad it is, at least the plot did not last 22 minutes long. This episode needed the B plot to at least make it somewhat better than how it is so far. Even if the B plot is pointless, which it is, because the B plot goes absolutely nowhere. But now let's get back to the main plot of the episode. Now we're back to the main plot, and oh my god, I already want to go back to the B plot because this is so bad. Sure, the episode goes from a bad episode, with this scene in particular, to one of the worst of all time. So what happens? Stan goes back to the institution, or whatever it's called, and sees Francine. And when Francine sees Stan, she realizes that it was him who put her in the asylum, which leads to one of the most disgusting scenes I've ever seen. Can someone tell me the joke in this? Seeing an unstable woman freak out, it's not funny at all. It's stupid, and in general, it's just hard to watch. Like, seriously, I know this is American Dad, and oh, it's supposed to be played for comedy. Can someone tell me the joke here? There is no joke at all. It's not funny, it's incredibly stupid, it's distasteful, and it's hard to watch. After this, Stan tries to admit himself into the insane asylum. And if I'm being honest, this scene is probably the best scene in the episode. Why? because it's the only scene in the episode that I can consider remotely funny. It's not really funny at all, really, but in general, it's a lot more funny than the garbage that we are about to cover. It's a lot better than it. But after that, we go back to the B plot. And for the B plot, what happens? Fung is now a cartoon character. Hooray, I guess. Well, this is pointless. This is really pointless. Now we get to arguably the worst scene in the episode. So apparently Francine is in a contest thing. I'm not exactly sure what to call it, but it's called Putting on the Hits. So what happens here? It's pretty much a bunch of people working for the asylum or whatever you want to call it, just making fun of disabled people. That's literally the joke, if you even want to call it that. I can't call this a joke. Can someone tell me in their right mind why making fun of disabled people is meant to be funny? It is not funny. It's downright disgusting and it's horrible. The jokes go nowhere and they're just disgusting to watch. Literally, there's no point of this either. The episode will be largely unchanged without it. But nope, we have to have this insulting crap. Literally, there's nothing good about this scene at all. It's just painfully unfunny. It is disgusting, and it's just hard to watch in its own right. I take that back. This is a worst scene in the episode. And it is a worst scene in the damn show, and probably the worst scene in cartoon history. So what happens? In order for Stan Smith to, save his wife to free her from the insane asylum, Stan Smith tries to escape her. That doesn't sound bad, right? But no, they do it in the most disgusting way possible. What do? They go on from gag to gag, just insulting disabled people. They destroy them, literally destroy them. They ram them into walls. They do literally anything to destroy them just so we can get through. And you know what? There's no consequences at all for this. This is downright horrible. Horrible. There's no point to this at all, like it said throughout the rest of the episode. It's just disgusting. It didn't need to be this disgusting, but no, it has to go for shock humor. But the shock humor doesn't work because it's not funny. Sure, I like dark humor a lot, but this is just downright horrible, and it is downright disgusting to watch. I don't know why anyone would find this funny. Literally, if you find this funny, then there's not really anything I can say besides the fact that you're probably just a horrible person. This is disgusting. Downright disgusting. It is horrible. And honestly, I don't know why Seth MacFarlane did this. Literally, I don't want to bash the creator or anything, but you need to check your damn work before posting this. And that goes for the writers too. Can you tell me your ideology on how this is funny? Because it isn't. Where's the joke? What's funny about this? There's nothing funny about this at all. Now we move on to the ending of this episode. And the ending of this episode is almost as bad as the scenes I've previously mentioned. So what happens? They use lobotomization to end this episode. First off, people are going to hate me for this, but I don't care. I'm going to give American Dad this. I'm going to give him at least some credit. This is at least a little creative because of how obscure it is. But that doesn't mean it's good, and it doesn't mean I'm going to be giving it any grace at all, or any lenience. But they show the lobotomization. They freaking show it. This is the most disgusting scene in animation history. If I'm being honest, this is the most disgusting thing ever. Sure, I may give him credit for at least thinking of something so obscure, but why do you need to show it? Why do you need to show the damn scene? It's not funny, and it's downright horrible, and it's disgusting. I can't give him credit for this anymore because they actually show it. And when it comes to actually ending the episode, it doesn't end the episode at all. There's no point to this. It doesn't conclude the episode at all, and considering American Dad doesn't exactly have the best continuity, everything is back to normal in the next episode of the show, which means this is downright pointless. So we have to sit here through this disgusting pile of crap for no reason. This is the worst ending in editing a TV show ever. Yes, I'm going that far. It is one of the worst endings and one of the worst piles of crap I've ever seen from anything. It is downright horrible. Now let's give an overall analysis of this episode. And I'm just going to tell you this, it's not going to be pretty because of how much I hate this episode. So, let's get on to it. First off, let's discuss the plot. So the B plot, as I mentioned, is pretty bad, right? But it's not that bad considering the rest of the episode. It's more mediocre than anything. But in terms of the actual episode with the A plot is one of the worst things I've ever seen. If you're going to balance them out, I'm going to be giving the plot section a 1 out of 10. It's not a 0 because of the B plot. But if it was just the A plot, I would go in the negatives if that's possible because of how much I hate it. Now on to the entertainment. Yeah, no. How is this supposed to be funny? Can someone tell me how this episode is supposed to be funny? I rarely do this, but this is getting a 0 out of 10. I literally cannot find any remotely funny jokes at all in this episode. Every single joke is either dragged out, or is incredibly unfunny, or is downright disgusting and horrible. This is not an entertaining episode, and I advise not to watch it if you want to be entertained. It's horrible. Now on to characters, and here at least I'm going to give them a little more grace, but still not much. Steve and everybody else in the B plot, they're pretty bad, okay? But they're not that bad. They're not that bad. But now for the A plot, everyone in the A plot is absolutely abysmal. So where does that lead the characters? I'm giving the characters a 1.5 out of 10. They are bad, sure. But the B plot at least saves it from not being a 0 out of 10. Like in the plot category. At least the B plot has something, I guess, but yeah, everybody's still really bad. Now on to the flow category. Yeah, all of this episode is filler. The episode barely moves at all. It doesn't know where it's going. The B plot shouldn't be here at all as it's all filler, and the A plot doesn't really get going until over halfway through, and then again, it has no sense of direction. The flow category is getting a 0 out of 10 because it is absolutely horrendous. Now for the ending. Yeah, the ending is flat out horrible. Literally, there's nothing good about I can say this at all. Sure, I gave him a little credit for thinking of something so obscure, but then again, I'm not going to give him credit for this, because frankly, it does not deserve the credit at all. So, overall, I'm giving the ending a 0 out of 10. Just because of the whole scene being one of the most disgusting pieces of crap I've ever seen, I can't give it any point at all. And it'd be a disgrace to give it at least 1 point. The ending is abysmal. It is one of the worst I've seen in anything. Overall, this episode gets a 2.5 out of 50, or a 5%, or a 0.5 out of 10, or an unforgivable category. And this episode is one of the worst pieces of animation I've ever seen, and frankly, I'm surprised that it even scored this high. I would have expected it not to get a single point at all when watching it. But frankly, I had to give it a point somewhere. This episode is absolutely horrendous in every single possible way. It deserves, as I said, a 0.5 out of 10, 2.5 out of 50, or a 5%, whichever you want to go by. This is my least favorite piece of animation I've ever seen. Thank you guys for watching, and Raises out.